Ansel Adams was born in 1902 in San Francisco, California. When he was 14, he convinced his parents to vacation in Yosemite National Park. After the visit, Adams developed an enthusiastic interest in both photography and the park. He returned to Yosemite every year for the rest of his life. During the 1920s, Adams avidly pursued his greatest loves, photography and classical piano.
Ansel, you know, was a serious pianist, a musician, before he became a photographer. That was going to be his career. He was the only person I've ever known who played Bach as a romantic.
But his reputation as a notable photographer grew. So in 1930, Adams committed himself completely to camera and darkroom. Adams and Weston were friends who shared a common desire to demonstrate photography's potential as an artistic medium. But they differed in their approach to landscape photography.
Weston was concerned with a quieter, more gentle, more kind of intimate world. Adams is very much concerned with a very grand, heroic, Wagnerian sense of the American West. And so he utilized all the potential possibilities of the medium in order to orchestrate the kind of grandest, loudest picture that he could put together.
Adams and Weston also pursued their artistry with different techniques.
Ansel Adams, with the zone system, was comfortable with his metering and the exposure calculations that he could determine from the temperature how long to process his film for.
Adams, like Weston, carefully selected film emulsions, lens filters, and exposures, but Weston preferred to develop his photographs by inspection.
So Edward worked with a very dim green light and processed by inspection, and having enough light to just visually see how that negative was being developed. He could control the density and the contrast of his negative.
Dodie Weston Thompson relates her satisfaction over the development by inspection process she learned from her mentor and former father-in-law, Edward.
It's wonderful fun if you like imaging at all. If you like seeing your image in the ground glass, it's a lot of fun to see your negative get stronger and stronger and know at just the point at which that's enough developer and stop the development.
Ansel Adams, on the other hand, wanted a much more dramatic world, and that meant both filtration and extensive control during exposure and development, and then a great deal of very extensive darkroom manipulation. So he was certainly a master of technique in terms of a world that he wanted to describe, this kind of grand, heroic world of dark skies and moon rises and incredibly intense white trees against dark backgrounds. Ansel Adams came along and coined a series of phrases such as pre-visualization that was an attempt to indicate, perhaps more to the public than to photographers who had always known this little secret, that photographers were in fact artists, that they controlled the substance of what appeared in the frame in the same way that a painter controlled the material that appeared on the canvas.
Just as Weston influenced America's view of the frontier, so too did Adams.
Adams essentially, somewhat single-handedly, reinvented this heroic myth of a West when the world that he was photographing didn't exist with the same kind of intensity and isolation that it had during the 19th century. And there was Adams somehow with his remarkable bag of camera and darkroom tricks, able to pull this heroic world out of the bag once again, where you didn't see any intrusion of the urban world. The interesting thing is that other photographers going to the same spot would be somewhat surprised that Adams was able to continually pull this kind of heroic trip off, because right behind Adams' back might be a camper with their refrigerator and their stereo blaring.
Edward Weston and Ansel Adams forever changed the course of American landscape photography. But the influence of these great artists did not last. Post-war changes and social turmoil steered the interest of young photographers in new directions. For a second time, America turned its attention away from the West. Only time would tell if the frontier would again be the focus of the photographer's view through the shutter box.